We found the first dead cow on a Tuesday morning. She'd been cut open and her sex organs removed. Every ounce of blood drained from the poor animal, and not a drop spilled upon the grass on which she laid. "How you reckon they did that?" Charlie asked. "I haven't a clue." "You ever seen anything like it?" "Nope." Among the stank of rot was a faint and unexpected medicinal odor, like one might smell in a hospital. Stranger still were the lack of nearby tracks, animal or otherwise. "It's like she were carried here," Charlie said. I looked off toward the horizon. The remaining herd, distant specks. "Go on and check for others. I'm gonna give the boss a call." The boss, no longer a young man fit for horse riding, arrived in his green UTV a little while later. "Well, she's dead," he said as he limped over toward the cow. "What do you think got her?" "That's a mystery, sir." "A mystery, huh?" He stepped next to the cow and grimaced at the odor, pulled a handkerchief from his back pocket and covered his nose, and then knelt next to her. Notice the precision of the cut. It certainly doesn't look like the work of an animal. She's bone dry too. I see that, and her liver is mush. I don't know what to make of that. Boss stood and removed the handkerchief from his face. "Neither do I," he said, and returned to the UTV. "Want the law on this?" "No, John. I'd rather you handle it." I nodded, and he started the UTV back up and left. That night, Charlie and I hid camouflage beneath some brush, watching the remaining herd. They slept and grazed and occasionally mooed. But not once did we see anything suspicious. We called it quits at sunrise. Wednesday night, I made the foolish mistake of letting two of the other cowboys, Brett and Jimmy, take watch. The next morning, I found the two of them laying next to each other on the ground, sound asleep. I kicked some dirt onto them and said, "Wake up, dipshits." They stirred from their slumber and shielded their faces. Then Jimmy said, "We was just resting our eyes." "What did I tell you?" I said if you needed to sleep, to do it in shifts. That's what this was, our sleeping shift. Dumbfounded, I looked at Brett, and not getting a response, I shook my head and said, "The IQ average would go up if I did this country the courtesy of killing the two of you." Brett and Jimmy exchanged nervous glances with one another. And right about then, Charlie and his horse came galloping up. "There's been another," he said. I sighed and climbed onto my horse. "Show me." The skin around her jaw was missing, along with her eyes and ears. Her sex organs remained intact. But once again, there was a clean cut on her body exposing her heart and liver, which had been reduced to paste. "No blood," Charlie said. "No tracks." She was near the fence line, far away from the other cattle. No sign she'd walked there or even died there. Like Charlie said before, it was like she were carried. Out of instinct, I looked up and noticed something metallic reflecting the sun. It was small and probably about 300 feet above us. "What the hell is that?" I said. Charlie followed my gaze, and then hurried back to his horse and grabbed his rifle, and then looked through the scope at it and said, "Looks like a metallic ball." He handed me the rifle, and as soon as I looked up, the ball was gone. "Where the hell did it go?" Charlie said. I handed him the rifle and pulled out my cell phone, took some pictures of the cow, and sent them to the boss along with the text, "I'm heading your way. We need to talk." Then, I climbed onto my horse and told Charlie to have Brett and Jimmy babysit the dead cow. "You sure you want them dimwits on this?" he asked. "Not really, but on the off chance whatever's killing these cattle gets them too, I'd say it's worthwhile." Charlie laughed and made his way toward the boys, and I headed off toward the boss. "How the hell did this happen again, John?" Boss yelled. "I know, sir. I should have been out there last night." "Damn right. I want you out there every night until we catch who's doing this." "What about Brett and Jimmy?" "Have them walk the perimeter. They won't fall asleep if they're moving." I wouldn't be so confident." Boss sighed and looked at the pictures again. "Similar smell?" "Yes, sir." "What else?" "We saw something hovering overhead." Boss looked away from the phone and stared at me. "Hovering?" "Some sort of metallic ball." "How high?" "Hundreds of feet." "How big was it?" "Not very big. The size of a basketball, maybe." "You think it was a drone?" "Ain't like one I've ever seen. It didn't make a sound, and it was fast. 1 second it was there, and the next, it was gone." Boss put his phone down and said, "You know what this sounds like, don't you?" "I know." "Whatever the case, I want answers." "I'll get them for you, sir." That night, it stormed. The cattle had moved further east to outrun it, but were ultimately overtaken and took shelter under the few trees around. Charlie and I did our best to stay hidden, but it had become difficult to stay low with rainwater puddling up. And to complicate things even further, the storm was causing interference in our radios, making communication with one another difficult. Whatever Brett and Jimmy were up to was anybody's guess. The only reassurance I had was that they were likely too wet and miserable to fall asleep. Lightning struck not far off, and thunder roared. And Charlie mumbled, "How'd they miss this one?" "Who?" "The weather people." "That ain't unusual. Wasn't but an hour ago they were calling for clear skies." Another bolt of lightning struck nearby, even closer this time. The ground shook for a good 10 seconds or so, and the radios crackled. "You reckon the one hit Brett and Jimmy?" Charlie asked. "Hopefully." Charlie keyed up on the radio. "Y'all good?" No response. "Brett, Jimmy, you there?" Charlie asked. Nothing. I should go check on them. "Hold on," I whispered. "You see that?" I pointed to a part of the herd sheltering beneath a tree. "They see something." The cattle were staring off to the south and growing more agitated. Charlie and I looked through our rifle scopes, neither of us able to see what was getting them so riled up. Some of them even had scurried away from the tree and out into the rain. Suddenly, off to the left, where another part of the herd had taken shelter under a different tree, a cow let out a loud, bellowing and pained moo. Charlie and I quickly shifted our focus and saw the cattle stampeding away from the tree. Beneath, it was a lone cow lying motionless on the ground. "Son of a bitch," I said, and I shrugged off the camouflage tarp and whistled for my horse as I took off on foot toward the cow. My horse met me about halfway, and I jumped on, and Charlie followed behind on his. The cattle were still pacing around nervous and mooing when we reached the tree. "She dead?" Charlie asked as I got off my horse and knelt by the cow, looking over her with a flashlight. "Yeah, but she ain't been mutilated." "Was she shot?" "I don't know. Nothing I can see on their side. Try Brett and Jimmy again." Charlie held his radio to his mouth and keyed up. "Brett, Jimmy, come in." No answer. "Alright, go find them," I'll wait here. If you need me, fire off a round." Charlie nodded and rode off to the north. And, about 50 yards out, came to a halt. "What is it?" I hollered. He looked up toward the sky, his palm held out to his side. "It ain't raining over here." It was still raining on me. I hurried over to Charlie, and about 20 feet before I could reach him. The rain had stopped, but I could see that all around us, it was still raining. Above us was black sky. I clicked the flashlight back on and pointed it straight up. It reflected off something black and metallic. "What the hell?" Charlie muttered. "Get out from under it!" I yelled. Charlie took off on horseback, and I took off on foot in the opposite direction. Suddenly, the dead cow began to slide across the ground toward me, quick and like it were being pulled. I had to dive out of the way to keep from it knocking my legs out from under me. And as I hit the ground, it slid past, then up and into the sky, where a beam of light now appeared, bathing the cow in the ground below in red. Then, almost as quickly as it began, the cow disappeared with the light and the rain returned. Brad and Jimmy, still alive unfortunately, hadn't seen a damn thing. Charlie and I, however, we were dealing with something far beyond our understanding. The rain ceased not long after the craft left, and it was decided we'd keep watch for the cow's return. After all, we'd been dealing with cattle mutilation, not theft. We kept watch well past sunrise and into the afternoon, and by the following evening, we still hadn't seen any more activity. Then, my phone rang. "Yes, sir?" I answered.
"Found the cow."
"Where?"
"Come to the house."
I left Charlie and the boys behind and rode up to the boss's house, where I found him sitting on his porch, drinking a glass of whiskey. "Where is she?" I asked. He nodded toward the barn. She laid dead and mutilated on the ground in front of it. "That's not all," he said, then pointed to the sky above her. A metallic ball hovered about 100 feet overhead. "Look familiar?" I turned toward my horse and said, "Keep an eye on it. I'll grab the rifle." "Don't bother, John. I already tried." I stopped. "You shot at it?" I aimed at the damn thing, and it zipped away before I could pull the trigger. "And it came back?" "You're looking at it, aren't you?" The ball just hovered there, silent and without rotating. No clue as to how it stayed in the air. "Sir, I'm afraid they ain't gonna stop until all the cattle are dead." "What are you saying?" "I think we need to get the government involved." "Absolutely not." "This is beyond us, sir. We ain't equipped to deal with this." "And you think the government is?" "I don't know. Maybe. They sure as hell have a better chance than us." "We show them this, and the ranch will be on their radar forever. We can't have that. We get away with the things we do because of the privacy this lands allow us." "You don't think it's going to set off alarms when folks see a cattle rancher still making profit without any cattle to show for it?" "We'll figure it out if we get there. In the meantime, we need to try to fix this ourselves." I had become exasperated, not seeing any path forward, and quickly unholstered my revolver and rapid-fired the entire cylinder of rounds at the metallic ball. Before a single round could come near, the ball darted away and out of sight. I looked at Boss, shook my head, and got back onto my horse. I couldn't in good faith give Brad and Jimmy a hard time that night. We were all tired, so I decided we'd take turns sleeping. Jimmy and I would keep watch from sundown to 2, and Charlie and Brad from 2 to sunrise. The idea being that the two idiots wouldn't be left alone. The first few hours were quiet, Then, out of the blue, Jimmy said, "What's even the point? If this thing is what you say it is, we can't stop it." I didn't answer. Jimmy continued, "Unless we blow it up, hit it with a rocket launcher or something. Maybe strap some dynamite to the cattle and... Hold on." Jimmy shut up and raised his rifle, pointing nowhere in particular. "Lower your gun," I said. He did as he was told. "What is it?" "Dynamite." "What about it?" "Yeah, so? You want to strap them to the cows?" "They killed the cow before they took her. If we can get to the next cow right after she dies, we can stick some dynamite in her before she enters the craft." "What if the dynamite explodes too soon?" "Then I guess we'll be cleaning up cow guts. Hurry up to the barn and grab 4 sticks of dynamite." Jimmy stood and got onto his horse. "Ain't so dumb, am I?" "Hurry up, I'll let the others know." "Is that I ain't dumb?" "No, jackass. About the plan." Jimmy spurred his horse forward and hollered, "Make sure they know I'm the one who came up with it." By the grace of God, Jimmy not only found his way to the barn, but also managed to stay awake long enough to come back. He got off the horse and handed me the 4 sticks of dynamite. I stowed one in my saddlebag and dispersed the rest among the boys. "Whoever gets to the cow first needs to attach the dynamite however they can, then light the fuse," I said. "Once it's lit, you need to get out of there. If you see the cow being pulled toward you, quickly turn and head in a different direction. You don't want that craft falling on top of you. Also, it's important that we herd the remaining cattle as far away as we can from the dead cow. So, if you're not the one attaching the dynamite, then focus on moving the cattle. Y'all understand?" They nodded, and I then said, "Okay, let's get ready." The 4 of us, each armed with guns and dynamite, stayed back and observed. A few hours went by, and we were starting to think we wouldn't be blowing anything up that night, when all of a sudden, a cow bellowed a moo and the herd dispersed. In the center of where they'd been, laid a motionless brown cow. "Let's go," I said, and we all climbed onto our horses and galloped full speed toward the dead cow. Charlie was the fastest of the bunch and made it there first. "Whoa," I said, and brought my horse to a stop. Then, along with the other 2 boys, began herding the cattle away. The fuse on the dynamite was long and gave Charlie ample time to join us. We looked up and could see a circle of sky blacker than the rest. "Well, they're here," I said. "Let's just hope they take the bait. Where'd you stick it?" Charlie smirked. "Upper ass." Brett and Jimmy were still moving the cattle and occasionally stealing glances behind, as we all waited and prayed for the best. Then, the cow began to slide toward the craft. And as it came closer, the center of the craft opened up, and the red light beamed on the earth below. "It's about to blow," Charlie said. The cow was now airborne, but not yet in the craft. We praised. Then, right as the cow disappeared into the sky and the light went out, the dynamite exploded. What followed was a muffled blast, much quieter than any of us anticipated. A green shockwave of energy swept across the unsteady craft. There was a haze of smoke as it crashed onto the pasture, shaking the ground and kicking up dirt and mud and manure. Brett and Jimmy joined alongside us. "It worked!" Jimmy laughed. "Yes, it did, Jimmy," I said, and unholstered my revolver and hit it towards the craft. Fire could now be seen flicking out of large gashes in the metal. "Look at the size of that thing," Charlie said. The craft was a large black disc about 60 feet round. I climbed off my horse and stepped closer for a better look through one of the openings. There was a strong stench of ammonia coming from inside. Suddenly, a figure appeared, and Charlie and I both pointed our guns at it. The creature was small and gray and splattered with cow guts. It was missing an arm and bleeding brown from its various wounds. Its head was teardrop-shaped, and its eyes were completely black and several sizes larger than our own. I guess you could say it looked like the stereotypical alien. The thing stared at us for a bit, held out its hand, then collapsed dead. I doubt anybody else will ever know where this occurred. And it's a shame because us cowboys don't have the faintest idea what any of this means. We aren't about to reverse engineer this craft or perform an autopsy on the 3 beings we found inside. In fact, we buried them, which I reckon was the Christian thing to do anyway. The craft though, that we kept. We built a new barn with a hidden space underneath, and that's where that craft will remain until, I don't know when. Until the boss dies, perhaps. Or maybe his kids will take on the secret too. I'm sorry, but I just don't know. What I do know is, on nights when it's raining, there are sometimes large, round spaces where the rain doesn't fall. But by sunrise, the cattle are fine. Maybe these aliens think the cattle are explosive now. Or maybe they have other plans. Whatever the case, one thing is certain. They haven't left us yet.